Good afternoon. I'm Jeffrey Fisher, owner of Darkshier Designs. I am a 3D designer, a programmer, and a tabletop game designer. I wanted to do this video months ago, but it turns out I apparently have a massive fear of that. It has been incredibly difficult to get started and actually do this. Very strange. I don't understand it, but here we go. So I will be going over some of the process of what I've been doing for designing an OpenLOCK Asylum set that I've been working on for the past 5 years. It has been an interesting journey and full of surprises I did not actually see coming. What you currently see pulled up is my Fusion 360, where I first started doing the designs for this, and it is started all as sketch based in Fusion 360. As you can see here, I'll go ahead and hide the bodies real quick. Every last one of those was done by hand in Fusion 360 and then raised up through their extrusion process. Um, and as you can see, it's very flat. There's no real texture definition for the originals, but that was less important than getting it started and kind of getting it going. Uh, it has regularly been a very frustrating process because when I first started with Fusion 360, there were some limitations I did not realize were going to be there. It just did not want to do certain things that I wanted it to do, but in the end, I generally got it to either get close enough that I could adjust it in 3D Builder or trick it in the program. And these are all 1-inch tiles, uh, each little square right here. It's set up specifically for OpenLOCK. Uh, and so these are just the tile sections of my asylum. And show the sketches again. Save so it doesn't pop up with the question asking me to save or not. These were my wooden floor tiles, and this was very time consuming. System seems to be lagging a bit. So as you can see, I have both wood grains and actual wood planks all drawn out, and the result was specifically for all of these so that I could have one of each major tile for the inside of the asylum, which turned out being such a large project. Did not even realize when I found a map, it was the only map I could find at the time of an asylum to kind of base this off of. It did not look as large as it ended up being until I basically zoomed into the map itself. And the map was from Tom Kartos, or I don't remember what his other Patreon account is. If you have not checked them out, you should definitely do that. They have excellent maps. But I wanted to design an asylum because there wasn't really one out there. There weren't parts for it, so I'm like, this would be really good, with especially with Call of Cthulhu and Arkham Asylum, or not Arkham Asylum, Arkham Horror was starting to come up really big too. And then about, I think, halfway through this process, they revamped their rules and created an RPG. And then Loot Studios produced a bunch of miniatures for it. Here you will see the brick wall sketch that I did. This is the same sketch that I used for the door, which is multiple sketches thrown together. Overall, I think there's something like 500 sketches to build all of this out. And this part right here gave me a lot of trouble because it doesn't look like it would be that difficult, but like some of these curves and edges, Fusion 360 just did not want to properly do. This was my second attempt at this step because the first one was a little too blocky. It didn't have the curvatures here at all. And it really did not look good at all to me. Next up, we have the interiors. Just one part of the main set that I'll be having. And as you can see, I put a lot of sketches into this one, doing everything by hand, which thankfully I do not have to do completely all the time anymore. So it includes each one of these hinges was drawn individually. And then once I had that part as a separate whole, I moved it down and changed its orientation so that it would fit properly. Okay, let's see here. Go ahead and drop the sketches. The lock, which I'll figure that out later. It does have the top, but I forgot to set it up so you could see that. So that was interesting because this is a 1-inch square. You had to zoom in quite a bit and use, let's see here, do I have any of my canvases? Pull that down. Let's see here, wood grain. No, that's the desk block. Asylum lock. You can kind of see it back there in the background. And that was for the actual lock itself. This portion right here may have to actually hide the bodies to show that. That was just done in regular paint and then poured it in so that I could end up with that as the total. Now, that being so small, those usually don't turn out super well, even on a resin printer, but I don't have the greatest resin printer, so it's rather old. And so we'll move on from this to some of my other tools that I now use. Save. Okay, so this is the terrain builder. I wrote this program specifically to kind of help me deal with texturing things. Now, if I want to design, for instance, um, got a little sidetracked with my project over here. If I want to design, for instance, special writing or stuff like that that I can put into tiles, this program I designed specifically for kind of helping me build some of my more technical uh, and nicer geometries to add faces to OpenLOCK. It does use PBR textures to alter geometries. I can add, alter, or remove images as height maps that have been altered slightly, so they're a little less like your standard height map, which basically looks like a massive spike pit. Let's see here. Go with asphalt. Now, if I zoom in here, so right now you can kind of see it's not doing super well because I do not have these set up the way I normally do. And so that will pretty advanced for changing what all it does. And it just used the micro detail AO influence. I can change the repeat size. Say I want to do 1 inch. And you can't really tell on asphalt specifically. Just because it's the way it's done. So I'll go ahead and return this to 51.8, 2 inches. And it does bounce between inches and millimeters. Let's see here. We are actually going to do today, roll down. And these are all PBR textures that I purchased specifically to work for this program. They're fairly easy to find online. It's just a matter of whether they're actually good or not. Where did I go? I'm looking for the second set of S's, I think. Maybe not. I'm wanting to do a stucco wall, a damaged stucco wall. It is down there. I've meant to actually go through and rename all of these so that I can find them easier. Okay, I did need the second set. And it is more or less real-time distribution of changing the geometries mesh. Back to center view, top view. Okay, so like I said, I can add an image layer. I can adjust it in real time. So layer height, we are going to do minus 1.25. No rotation, no flip. We are going to invert it because otherwise it will not work correctly. I lost track of Z offset, no Z offset for that. X and Y is already done. Width. Let's do 50.8 and 50.8 for the height. That will give me pretty good sized. Let's see if I can't zoom in. Oh, wrong button. So as you can see, it cuts in 1.25 millimeters. And there's actually a reason I'm doing that specifically. Okay, go back to center view, top. Make this a little bigger so I can see it a bit better. And I think that is all I'm going to do for that. Now for the texture layer. Specifically added this. So I'll add to the texture layer. And this program is running a bit sluggish because of its size. The size of the PBR texture. These are 4K resolution images. And basically undid most of the stucco with this because of where it is located. But first we're going to make a few changes. Micro, AO, and edges. And like I said, this is it's a very detailed image, so that's one of the drawbacks of having exceptional detail. Let's see here. This is in case I wanted to do maze tiles. Z offset, that's what I'm looking for. Minus 1.25. And that should drop that down. And because I have a depth set to 1, this is actually literally meaning depth on this one. I have to do negatives for that, so 1 point, let's go with 7.5 on that. And there we have it. Let's see if I can't. Brickwork coming through the cracked and broken tile. Stucco is still visible without the brickwork coming through. And still have a little bit of a lip. So the only drawback that I've come across with this is a very detailed part, and it loads and exports slower than dirt. So we'll go ahead and hit export, and as you can see, I've already done some tiles. These two right here are OpenLOCK templates. OpenLOCK from Printable Scenery. The others I did earlier. Let's see here. Damage, oops. Damage stucco. Save. And so this will run through a very, very long process that'll walk through and check all of the vertices, all of the mesh, and then export the corrected file. Like if I wanted to just throw this on a printer, it should, in theory, work, print basically as it is. So now with that, we'll close that and bring up 0 degrees. 0 degrees is another program. It is heavily a work in progress. It is basically to replace 3D Builder since it is no longer allowed in, or no longer available in Microsoft. And it was what I was using to check and repair any parts that I had. I was moving or pulling parts into that and then moving them manually so that they sat properly on top of the OpenLOCK tiles so that the faces were flush, and it was kind of really a pain to do it that way. There were a lot of parts that I thought were touching, and then it ends up that there were micrometers between the two parts, and so they were always two parts, and it was kind of nightmarish. So when I decided I was going to need a replacement for 3D Builder, I decided to start looking into how I wanted to make improvements to that program, not specifically to that program, to a replacement for that program. So some of the delay here, or most of the delay here actually, is probably that one part that I just made, the damaged stucco. It is very heavily meshed, and so it is going to slow down my computer a great deal. I will probably end up needing to kind of reduce some of the faces on that just so that it loads like it should. And so that, I don't slow down my computer like this every time. There we go. Okay, so we have, move this over. That is my padded wall that I created earlier. I have one set for tile, one set for broken tile. Let's zoom out here for a second. And then I have my, a little bit further, there we go. And I have my damaged stucco wall, which is going to slow down everything as I go through this process. I have OpenLOCK's E-tile and then OpenLOCK's A-wall to include the little nubbies that I hate. Oh, here we go. Eating system resources again. So probably should not have pulled that in, and testing some of these in the video in earlier parts, I had ended up having to delete that, and I'm probably going to do that now so that I can kind of show off what else I'm doing, and then I can come back and bring that one back in. So as far as floor tiles, I've got 2 floor tiles, so I'm going to copy and paste that. And 1 wall tile that I will kind of show some of what this program is meant to do. So as of right now, let's go to snap to face. Select that face and then the wall. I have no idea how long it took me to get this program to do that. It used by the, I don't know, about a month ago, I finally got it to stop turning this 45 degrees. So now the reason this is so much larger. Deselect all. Then the wall tile is because I did not want to have to program in 3D Builder to have specific wall faces because it kind of threw off these actual patterns. Let's see here, view mesh. So see the mesh details here. Like this one is nowhere near as dense. Let's turn on X-ray. So normally this is what you would see in X-ray over in this section here where you can actually see through the part. These are so dense that you have to zoom in close to actually see past them. Let's go ahead and turn those back off. I don't normally use those two until I'm actually working on the sculpting section. So one of the things that 3D Builder does not do, let's see here, object, deselect. An older AutoCAD program used to do this. And I used to use that program all the time for simple geometries. Face alignment. So, okay, so deselect so you can see. Drops in flush. As you can see, it is slightly off here. But that is needed because select that and then go to split. Select that face, keep the top, and add split. Now it is exactly where it needs to be. So then come over here to my alignment tool, use it right here, and that pulls it right to where it needs to be. Flawless every time. So select this piece, choose split, and then keep the bottom. Now the reason I got rid of those is because I actually have some parts where I had extra clip parts right here through the centers so that they can connect to specialized wall parts that will hold those so I can do multiple stories and have a little bit more stable and not having to so much post-processing. So let's get object, select all, snap to face. And then snap to face on that one. And I'll zoom in here in a second to actually show those off too. Oops, object, deselect. So as you can see, flush, no issues. These pull in quite a bit of detail. And these were actually scaled down in the detail they did. Again, because it slows down the program so much. And it's still heavily detailed. Let's pull on the X-ray so you can kind of see that. So as you can see, these parts are very, very detailed. So it took me entirely too long to even remember that I needed padded walls in an asylum because I was so busy working on a lot of the other asylum parts. I have some specialized stairs that I created spiral stairs, stuff like that. And then a month or two ago, I was like, oh, yeah, I need, can't have an asylum without padded walls. All right, so let's go ahead and delete that, 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 and that to kind of help the program work a little bit quicker when I pull in this other part. Oh, that's tile damage stuff. There we go. I really wanted to show off the detail that that program does. So, and this program takes a while anyway, since it is still a work in progress. I don't have sculpting done. Painting's getting pretty close. Surface layers is getting pretty close. Sculpting has a really long way to go on it. And I mean, these are really technical things, so it would probably go a lot faster if I had AI just magically doing it, but I do not. I do have AI check for errors, which has bit me several times because it does not like to understand certain aspects of, well, anything. If you've used a lot of AI, you really understand that. I have created AI to make multiple songs about how AI has failed me in various different processes for kind of helping troubleshoot problems, and I've used it a couple times to try and expedite some of the just really simple things that I didn't want to have to go through and edit by hand as far as code goes, but that that usually did not end well for me. At one point in time I had to scramble to find one of my backups because I accidentally moved something over and it overwrote the original, and I lost months of work over it. It's just one of those things you kind of got to watch out for. So, and most people will probably agree that I deserve that because why use AI? But when AI does rapidly do things that could take me months, I see no issue with it, which may end up costing me in the long run for getting haters and stuff like that, but that is life. So, oh, what I was doing here is snap to face, and again, it's running crazy slow. And you'll see why here in a second. As far as the geometries go for this, it's a very, very dense mesh. You probably have the settings on Terrain Builder dialed in just a little too high, but I would rather go back and kind of soften things a bit in Blender or 3D Builder while it works, or eventually in this program. And that way I can decide what level of detail I'm losing individually per part, so I'm not stuck with just one guaranteed everything gets cut down to basic low poly. Because well, I almost said nobody likes that. Some people like low poly. It sure helps with running programs faster. But in the end, that's really not usually what's best for tabletop wargaming or skirmish gaming. You really want to get as much detail as you can get and still print at a reasonable time. I have not checked to see what this would take to print. Normally, I run a big build plate filled with parts, and it takes me about 2 days. So, okay, so this is upside down. So, let's drop that to... Oop, going the wrong direction. Again, this is still a work in progress. Got a lot going on with it, and I only work on random parts of it at a time, whatever I'm kind of feeling like working on at the time. So get this aligned so I can get it cut up. And then I will pull up once I get this cut, or moved and then cut, and then aligned again. Then I'll pull up the mesh view so you can actually see just how crazy this one is, especially compared to the other side. There we go. All right, so now go to that just a touch. Then go to split. All right, so target there. And then keep the top. Apply split. And this program is probably 6 months to a year before I'm going to get it actually officially finished. And then, as per most programs, you usually don't ever finish. You have the main program that you see, and then updates as you come across random problems or anything like that. It is still very much alpha build right now. So that is its own special crazy. One of the earlier designs when working with Snap to Face, for some reason, it started selecting the mesh section and then putting it on the back side, the inside of parts like this, where it would reverse it, and it was just a nightmare to figure that hot mess out. But as you can see, it's, well, more or less working the way it's supposed to, as far as the part that I really needed the most for the upcoming Kickstarter later this year for the Asylum. And now we will do our alignment. And I probably should have had just a part already put together for this, but I figure all the better to show the haters that I'm not all AI oriented. I just use it for random things, especially making music, which is not artistry in my personal opinion, but uh, I know there's some people that would probably try and set me on fire for even implying that, but I am not musically talented. I couldn't keep a beat to save my life, which is funny because I have excellent timing and reflexes, but when it comes to music, it just does not mix. But my wife is basically made out of music, and uh, I really wanted to make a song for her at one point in time, and I could not find an artist that, well, first of all, I could even afford to have make me a song, and second of all, it was just for fun. So when I came across, I think it was Eureka first, which is a terrible, terrible song creator, especially compared to Suno, which I think both of those are currently under legislation as of the time of this video. Um, and let's go ahead and hit X-ray. So I kind of created a lot of music for my wife or music for me, and then some for fellow gamers if they wanted it, and if not, then no big deal. Okay, so zoom out so you can maybe X-rays the show the problem there because I'm just too far out. Okay, so density wise, I mean that's a fairly dense mesh, especially compared to your standard open lock. And then there's the actual wall. Go ahead and turn on my X-ray again, see if that helps, and then I'll zoom in. Yeah, with that on, you actually have to get real close to see a lot of the changes. Go ahead and drop X-ray and drop mesh view. And there we go. So eventually that will be the damaged stucco and padded wall room. So entirely too detailed for the purpose. So now if I really wanted to get creative, I may have broke these, but I can't really recall. Let's, oh yeah. Let's see here, face selection. And again, this is work in progress. It seems like every time I kind of fix something, something else breaks, which is some of the fun of coding, especially very complex systems like this. Uh, so I may have actually broken something since I got these kind of working. Um, and I may have decided to choose the wrong layer to actually work on, or should probably not have even had that wall in there for showing this off. So maybe I'll pull in one of Anvil Digital Forge's things and show you on that. Uh, so, well, it has selected something. Not a lot. It's supposed to have a bit more of a crawling effect when it selects meshes. Uh, it's hard to say. Well, I guess I will not be showing that off right now. Um, so that is part of my process. Okay, I guess I can, let's see here, go to object. Oh, I was clicking on the wrong one. No wonder it was working. I was working on the wrong, or looking at the wrong screen. Too funny. Okay, so let's select face that. See if that actually pulls up a larger amount. Yep, that's better. Okay. So let's go ahead and image layer. There we go. All right, so let's see here. We've got, no, no, no. And 3 images, bloody hand. There we go. So this should pull up just where it is. I'm actually going to have to change up how this goes because half of my thing is off the screen and I did not realize when I set this up. Or it may just be the screen that it's on. So what this is supposed to do is create an actual image layer height map of the image. And basically I can use materials and texture layers the same way. As I select faces, and then I can increase those faces, and then basically layer over the images, the materials, and the textures as many times as I want to get the desired result. And I'll probably cut this off after this finally loads. And that will be my little video that's taken me forever to even manage to make myself do. Like I can still feel my fingers tingling from the very beginning of this, and I'm not even sure where I'm sitting for time on it. But once this is kind of done and you can get the idea of some of, there we go. And of course I have it set up so that it can show color and faces. And have it do that automatically so I have an instant view of what has changed. But if nothing else, I can at least see that I am in the exact area I wanted, and I'm not going over the area that I wanted. So, and I'll get these to be running, this and Terrain Builder will end up running much quicker by the time I'm done with them. There's a lot of things that it's not caching that I really needed to get it to actually cache. And so it's not pulling up, remeshing every last part of the model. And for something that has over 1 million faces, I'm actually not even sure how many faces this has. Once this stops, then I'll see about pulling up the actual analytics for it. And that way you can kind of get an idea for the level of detail that's going to go into these. And like once this program's done, I will use it for sculpting. Currently, if there's anything that I want to do touch-ups on or adding special changes or whatever to the layers or the image layers, the materials or the textures. Yeah, there we go. Currently, I'm using Blender for that. So it is pulling up just outside of the flat, smooth surface. And I think that this part here doesn't work. So let's see here. There we go. There we go. All right, so we have width is actually within that section. And I can change that. Let's see, let's change that to 3. And even 5. And then come down here. Let's see here. I must not have. Yep, I apparently did not add a scroll bar to this section, so that's kind of problematic. Well, at any rate, let's see here. Where do we have? Opacity, rotate. All right, so that part is actually off the screen. I was going to change the depth levels, but I think this is good enough to show you. All right, so let's now go over here, go to object, or no, it was analyze, edit. Okay. And I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but it will analyze this part right here to include the changes of adding the image layer. So basically it just walks through the entire mesh and it will eventually pull up all of the information related to just this part. And then of course, when I go to export, I will have to select all, okay, here it is. So vertices, 4,334,865. Faces, 8,662,335. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this program is slogging by every time I add this. So it is winding consistent. And I have 11,938 parts that actually need repaired. And of course, repair is not working correctly, so I can't really show you that process. But as you can see, these sections, this section right here is what needs repaired, which is obviously because those are the parts that I selected to alter. And so this little handprint will have inverted vertices and faces that the program will have to fix. If I toss that into 3D Builder, it's going to take, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour to actually go through and repair the part. And generally I will do that, or once I have this done, I'll run it through this to repair all of those parts. So, and that is a process. Generally, I will go through and like I'm not saving this as it is, but when I want, I'll hit export and then export it to whatever folder I need it to. And then it'll export. If I just have this, it'll only export this. If I have all of them selected, then that becomes the part that it exports. So that is everything. I wish I could say this has been fun, but it's been super nerve-wracking. But I hope this really gives you an insight into how I go through my process, start to finish on a lot of different things, and some of the different aspects that I do. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.